both Precious Achiuwa and Alec Burks have played very well since forced into action here. So all this stuff is the ultimate in rear view, looking in the rear view mirror.
Sure.
But in the game, like, how many minutes did Precious Achiuwa play in the Sixers series? Like, is that something that's look upable quickly? Very. Like, before Anunoby got hurt, so that was the entire Sixers series, which is 6 games, and then the 7th game, Anunoby did not get, was not injured. So that's those 7 games. If there's a way of looking it up for the first 7 games of their postseason before Anunoby got hurt,
sure,
or even just the Sixers series, how many minutes did Achiuwa play?
A total of 30. DNP, DNP, 10, 19, DNP, DNP. That's the entirety of the Sixers series, then 4 minutes in Game 1 against Indiana.
Burks?
Burks, I'll look up now, but he played even less, I want to say.
I don't think he played at all.
He may not have played at all. I think there were 44 seconds that he played before this run of injury.
In Game 2, yeah.
Right. Yeah, so in Game 2, like Cam said, 44 seconds, and then 21 minutes in Game 3, 23 in Game 4, no minutes at all in the Sixers series, and no minutes at all in Game 1.
Right. So what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Like, that's what we're talking about. When everyone is saying he had no choice, he didn't have a great choice. Again, Achiuwa and Burks have acquitted themselves extremely well. So I don't know that the criticism is totally unfair. This is Tibbs we're talking about. And again, I say this with love for the guy. He worked here at ESPN when he was in between coaching jobs, and I came to really like him. I feel like I know him and like him a lot. But I can tell you what tree he's from. He's from the Pat Riley tree. Now, it might be indirect. I'm not sure if he ever actually worked for Riley, but he worked for Van Gundy, who worked for Riley. Jeff Van Gundy I'm talking about. So that's, and I'm going to tell you a story now that I'm old enough to remember when people used to say Pat Riley's Knicks would run out of gas because he played them so hard and worked them so hard. And I remember covering Bulls-Knicks series in the early 90s. And on the off days, we'd all go to practice. And the Bulls would have a walkthrough and a film session. One day, Phil Jackson decided they're not even going to practice. He took them all on a boat cruise around New York City. I'm not making this up. Phil Jackson, on an off day between games in New York, took them on one of those boat cruises around to look at like the New York City sights because he felt his team just needed to get away from it. In the meantime, Pat Riley was running 2-hour practices during the playoffs, working his guys into the ground, which is right. I don't know that's the reason that Phil's teams always won those. The main reason they always won those was that they had a guy who wore the number 23. But what I'm saying is Thibodeau comes, he came by this honestly. That's his coaching DNA. That's what he learned. You play your guys. You work hard. You let the chips fall where they may. And I guess what I'm asking is, could Alec Burks or Precious Achiuwa have gotten a few minutes in the Sixers series that might have made a little bit of difference? Now, you want to throw back at me, they won every one of those games by 1 point. So every one of those they may have, maybe that's a legitimate response. But we don't know that. We don't know that his teams wouldn't have won those games if he had sacrificed those minutes. Maybe those guys came in and play well. Maybe those guys come in and there's a little more energy for the other guys in the fourth quarters of these games. Again, I don't know the answer. I'm just saying I don't think it's as easy as saying, well, he had nowhere to turn to. He couldn't have done absolutely anything. So stop suggesting he could have done. He could have done something. He could have. And he didn't. And that's, I don't know if the criticism is fair or not, but it's not coming from nowhere.
Sure. But Tom Thibodeau changing his coaching philosophy in the middle of a series would be like me deciding I'm going to change my religion if I get a parking ticket. Like, that's not going to happen. Tom Thibodeau has been coaching for 30 years this way.
You're kind of overdoing it.
How am I overdoing it?
Because, like, that's quite a thing. I mean, you're now.
Tom Thibodeau has coached this way and believes in this basketball.
There is nothing that could happen to you that is going to make you question the way you have practiced your religion, which is incredibly important to you in your life.
Right.
But Tom Thibodeau is a basketball coach. That's an evolutionary process. The game changes, you change, players change. You constantly have to evolve the things you do. Like, there was a time when all Tom Thibodeau cared about was defense. He was the defensive coordinator of Doc Rivers' championship Boston Celtics. You know, you have your philosophies have to change and adapt to the way the game is played, the game is officiated, the game is called. Like, it's not like saying, okay, I no longer believe in my maker and whatever other things go into, what's important to you.
Sure. Sure.
It's
what I'm saying
it's
is
not quite that.
That Tom Thibodeau, this is his coaching ethos, his fiber, his being. It's, I'm going to play my guys.
But Nick Saban's coaching ethos was, we're going to beat you with smothering defense and running the football. And then what happened? The game changed, and he changed with it. And suddenly, they became wide receiver U, and his quarterbacks are now basically on every team in the NFL.
But that was over the course of many years.
Great coaches adapt. Well, yes, but my point is Tibbs has been coaching that long. I think he's almost as old as Saban.
66.
So
but it's not like the game was getting away from him this time. He led his team to a second seed. So why would he think he was doing anything wrong this season?
Because these things have caught up to him in other places. So you can say, and again, I don't think he would be coaching this way if he didn't have to. I think if Bogdanovich was still healthy, if Mitchell Robinson was still healthy, if Julius Randle was, what I'm trying to say is, if those guys were healthy, he would be playing his bench more. It would be deeper. We just now got down to guys he has no faith in.
Right, that's it.
And what I'm saying is the evidence suggests they've played well enough to have had a little faith, a little bit. Precious Achiuwa has been pretty good. Alec Burks has been pretty good. Could he have tried it? I'm not, again, I prefaced the conversation. Everyone yells at me. I pressed the conversation by asking, is it fair? That was my preface. I don't know what the answer is. But what I'm saying is this whole chorus of, no, it's totally unfair. There was nothing else he could do. Well, wait. There was something else he could do. Should he have done it? I don't know. We would have all, let's put it this way. If he had done it and they had lost because of it, we would have lined up to obliterate him for it. I'm not debating that. So all I'm saying is not everything is as cut and dried as we're making it seem.
No, for sure not. But I would rather lose playing the rotations that I know work than lose putting people on the floor whom I don't trust. And that's Tom Thibodeau's MO. Like, that's his thing. He's going to have the 5 guys on the floor that he wants. And he would rather those guys be tired than have fresh guys on the floor that he does not want to see play for him. I agree with you. Burks and Precious have both played fairly well in limited amounts this series, and perhaps dating back to the end of the regular season when they were pushing for the 2 seed, he could have prepared for this better. But at the same time, you can't really foresee the rash of injuries that they've had.
Yeah. I mean, they've played their way. If you think back to it, with like a week and a half left in the season, all those teams could have finished anywhere from 2nd to 7th. What was the distance? Not 7th. Maybe it was 6th. What was the distance between? I need to go back.
I mean, the very last day of the season, they could have finished anywhere between 2 and 5.
Right, correct, but not 6.
Right. So the Knicks finished, let's see here, 50 and 32. They were 14 games back of Boston.
What did Indiana finish? Because they were 6.
17 games back. So there was a 3-game difference. And Philly, by the way, was also 3 games back. So you were 100% right. Between 2 and 7,
fallen into the play-in. So that's what it was. Because he was desperate and rightfully so not to wind up in the play-in. Because who the hell wants to wind up in the play-in? I totally get that. And you also didn't want to fall to 4 or 5 because that winds up facing Boston in the second round. So he didn't do anything wrong. I'm asking, can you question it? Is it fair to question? Is it fair to say that he is a leopard who's not going to change his spots, and that it has bit him in the butt a few times? I mean, you ask the people who are crazy Bulls fans back in the day. Derrick Rose is on the floor at that point of a playoff game, and that's when he got hurt. Now, is that because of Tibbs? Of course not. His players love him, but it isn't. Well, not all of them, but most of them love him. I don't think Jimmy Butler loves him, but the point remains that he. I'm not even sure of that. I don't even know why I said that. I don't know what Jimmy Butler asked out of Minnesota. I don't even remember why that was now. These things feel like they happen in dog years. It's like 30 years ago that happened. But the point I'm making is it is not unreasonable to ask the question. That's all I'm saying.
It is not unreasonable to ask the question. That being said, if Andrew Nembhard's 31-foot prayer rims out and the Knicks wind up winning that game, we're talking about how much of a genius Tibbs is for stealing Game 3 on the road.
That's true. And that's also the kind of shot that changes everything, too.
It sure, yes,
That's
it
the kind
definitely
of shot,
feels like it.
Historically, that just changes stuff.